Look, it's Baby Yoda. Oh, what a day, what a day. All right, let's see what we left off here. So when we finished last week, I had finished keying all of this, right? And I moved my keys to what I thought would be appropriate timing, right? Me moving these keys to this timing doesn't necessarily mean I'm married to this timing. I can still adjust these things as I go if I decide I want to adjust my timing some more. But for now, this is pretty good timing, and I'm feeling pretty decent about it. I think I should be able to make this work. Okay? So once I'm at this point, and this is what my scene should look like before I turn on the auto-tweeting. I should have a rough amount of timing put in here. I figured out where my poses are going to be and how they're going to be spaced out. In my case, you'll notice I often have 5 frames between each of my keys. That's so that there's enough space for 2 keyframes on 2s. Okay, so when you tween, you have to key out your tweens, and you have to choose your timing. So that's something that we're going to be doing today. And that's what today's lecture is mainly going to be about. Again, I'm giving you guys a bunch of different assignments this term, running, jumping, walking. Oh, wait, we didn't do the walking because of my absence. Antic, overshoot, settle. Just drilling you guys on the basic concepts of animation again in 2D, right? This term is, to me, all about you guys becoming strong at Toon Boom and understanding how to animate in the correct way. So you don't just have a timeline full of motion tweening, which is the devil and impossible to revise if you get into animation on 2D. And you handed in a scene like that, you would be told off by your direct supervisor, no doubt. So group select the keys that you want to tween, and then hit Control K, and that will turn on your auto tweening. And then, should we just start from the beginning? Probably, yeah. Sometimes it's fun to start from the end and go backwards because the timing chart thing, when you key it out, it actually goes backwards, but I guess it makes more sense to go from the beginning. Okay, so he's anticing in. I haven't even thought about this. I don't know. So he's anticing in. So it's probably a slow in, and then he'll come out of this pose pretty fast. Yeah, so that'll be a slow in. Okay, so let's go left time ratio. I'm hitting the set ease in, ease out for multiple parameters. I'm on the keyframe on frame 9, which you can see here, and I'm affecting the timeline to the left, right? So I'm going to be using left time ratio. I want him to slow in. How dramatic. Let's see 50 and see what happens. Pretty good. You guys remember I was talking about the directionality I wanted him to do on this antic. I can't even remember what I came up with. He's doing a step back here. Pardon me, guys. I just rushed my breakfast down. And then he's going down. So I kind of want to build an arc here. That's going to go straight into the run. There's up, down. Oh, so that's supposed to appear like he's going up there. So down and then up. So it should be kind of a around the world kind of thing, I think. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to get him there. Yeah, so I want that arc to feel nicer. Okay, make sure your, what do you call it? Your auto tween is on. Or not your auto tween, your, oh my lord, English has failed me this morning. So I'm just trying to get these arcs to work, and I want him to come back into this step. I don't want him to just slide his leg back like that. I want it to feel like he's stepping back. So I'm going to need to bring this leg up a bit. And this will be turned into a step back. And you can see when I do it there, it affects the tweens before it. So now it looks more like he's stepping back there too. Yeah. I wonder if I should have that more dramatic. Yeah, that's better. So it'll just come up a bit. And then stomps down. Okay. And then here I'm going again to there. And I think this timing is probably okay still. I'm going to move these beside each other just so I can get a better sense of my arc quickly. And you can see he's kind of... Okay, I definitely want that foot coming off the ground. I want to see that foot coming off, which we see there. But what I want is I want to have the toe dragging a bit. So I'm going to move this over a bit more. And I'm going to force this foot down a little bit. So the motion tweening, again, is doing some of the work for me, guys. But I'm not just going to settle with what it has. Like, if I think I can improve it by adding a bit of drag on the foot there. Oh, shit. And then you also see my other foot is moving off of its line. So I got to correct that as well. Okay. Again, with 2D animation, we always want our feet to stay stationary. We don't want them moving around like crazy legs. Doesn't look good. So we want those to be stable. That's going to help your animation a lot. That's pretty good. I don't love my shoulder here. It feels like it's just popping up. Maybe I can make this a slower transition here and make that feel more natural. I think I remember not loving this antic last week now that I'm thinking about it. And I can see why. It's not my best work. Past Brian has let future Brian suffer. It's not nice of past Brian. Okay, so I'm bending that arm too far in there. You can see it's bending beyond where it should be bending at that point. Let's open it up just a bit. And then he's going to pop into that pose quicker. Yeah. I'll just bring that down a little bit. There we go. Straight to down. Straight to down. I guess I should see a bit of that movement there, though, right? There we go. Okay. He's still looking at Yoda here, right? All those keys, he's still looking at Yoda. So he's antiquing in. I think I might already change my timing because I think I'm going to want him to just sit in that pose just for a second longer. Because it's a step back. It's a bit of a quick motion. So I'm really going to make him favor this starting pose on this antic here. And I might extend that by 2 frames. Let's see. So I'm on this keyframe now. I'm going to go to ease in, ease out parameters, and I'm now going to affect the right time ratio. And as I said, I want this to be pretty dramatic, so I'm going to go with a 75. And let's see what it does, what it picks for me. See, it's such a big motion. I'm still getting a lot of motion here. So I think, you know, that is a pretty dramatic slow out. But I think I'm going to want to extend this motion by 2 frames just so I have a bit more room for that motion to breathe. I'm always thinking about, like, okay, like, is that enough time? In this antic, because I'm stepping back, I think already now that you can see I've expanded that and added 2 frames in there, it's slower and it gives it a bit more time to sit in that antic, which I think is important. Okay, so let's make this launching pose work. Ugh. So my drivers have failed again. I just checked my drivers and now they're being a jerk. So thank you, computer gods. Are you guys super savvy computer people? I'm not. I'm like, I work on a computer all day, so I know how to do like basic things. But when it comes to like graphics cards and things like that, do any of you guys know what the heck's going on? Or is this like a foreign language to you, just as it is to me? I'm going to turn off the motion tween there so I can see these drawings accurately. I'm going to move this whole character up. So again, that foot, I want that launch foot to be right. I'm going to have him come out of this pose. I'm going to get a bit of an arc there. Even if it's not there right now, I'm going to force it to be there. Because you see when he goes up. Oh my lord. Stop being such a jerk. I'm talking to my computer. And then down. So I can get him going a bit up in that movement going into there, and then that'll sell that arc a little bit better. Because there's barely an arc there at all right now. And you know I love my arcs. Nobody knows what's going on with graphic cards, eh? My brother-in-law has a computer and he plays plane simulators, like X-Plane 9 is the big one. And he has an old computer, but he spent a lot of money on it. And now he wants to raise the graphics, and he's like, oh, I just want to get a new graphics card. And he thinks that that's going to be enough to solve it for him. But maybe it will be. Like, I haven't talked to Candid Computers yet. That's who I'm going to talk to. But I'm also wondering if maybe he should just get a new computer, because this computer is like 10 years old. He's done a bunch of upgrades on it to keep it like working and like able to play these games. But at a certain point, doesn't it just have to give up the ghost? I'm not sure. We got an expression change here. So that tween is looking good, but we got this expression change happening. So I have to get my character into that expression here too. I'll start moving him into this pose. That's fine. That'll be fun. And then we got to tween this again. And again, I really want him to slow out of that pose so he's enjoying it. So I've been showing you guys how to do tweening with the ease in, ease out parameter thing. I'm going to mention another way to do it as well now. This is actually how I usually do my tweens when I'm just working, but this doesn't make sense to a lot of people. So I'll mention it here, and it might make sense to you. So you'll see here, I have one key here and one key on this room. Between these two drawings, I have 1, 2, 3 tweens. Let me double check the ease in, ease out parameters. Oh, there is a value ratio here. Let's change that to 0. Apply previous. And then right time ratio here should be 0. Apply. Okay. Apply next. Close. Apply. Right time ratio is 0. It says it's 0, but then it looks a little angled here. Isn't that odd? Oh, there you go. Okay, good. Okay, so between these these two keys are 3 tweens. Oh, shit. You'll notice that if I looked at that ease in, ease out parameters button there, it's completely even. The right time ratio is 0. So what it does is it plots these tweens evenly. So the timing is completely even. What that means is every one of these tweens is 33% of the way towards this key. So if I wanted to manipulate the timing, I don't necessarily have to go into the ease in, ease out parameters. If I wanted to slow out, what I could do is I could click on this first key, knowing that this is 33% of the way to the final key, and hit F6 here. I would then move this key into the middle here. What that does is that makes the timing now a slow out. So I took that first tween, which is only 33% of the way to the final key, and I made a key of it and moved it over to make a slow out. Well, I'll show you. You'll see this drawing favors the key more, right? It looks like it's slowly coming out of it, and then he gets further into this pose. There's a greater distance between them. And the easiest way to notice it, if you can't see the big difference, is the spacing between the heads. Actually, we can also just turn on this, and you can see this way, right? So you can see now I've created a slow out. Now I can do the same thing the other way if I wanted to do a slow in. It's again 33% of the way each way. I can click on this last key. Now I can move this one over here, and you'll see it's now a slow in, right? The space between this pose and the last pose, it's much favoring the final pose, right? Which makes this a slow in. Okay. Now, you can have more fun with this if this is fun. Is this fun? So I want to slow in, but I really want a dramatic slow in. So what I've done here is by clicking this here and moving this key over to here, essentially that's like putting in like an ease out of like 66 in the ease in parameter thing. But if I want it to be even more dramatic, I can grab this key and move it over even more. And now that 33% is even more dramatic here. So now I'm barely moving out of that key. And I could use one of these keys and get a much more dramatically slow out. So in this case, I will do a slightly more dramatic one because I was thinking kind of like a 75. So that will give me a slightly stronger one, but it'll be probably a little bit higher than a 75, but pretty good. Oh, farts. Okay. So now I have a real slow out here. Right? He's barely moving out of that pose. And then he's popping into this pose. Okay? All right. That makes sense to you guys, that new way of doing tweening? Again, it's not for everybody, and I know it doesn't make sense all the time. Some people it makes sense, others it doesn't. For me, it's actually how I tend to tween at home. When I'm tweening at home, this is how I like to tween. So I want to make this arc work a bit better. I'm going to have him come down a bit here. I'm going to have him come down and up into the pose a little bit. And, you know, again, I'm always just thinking of secondary a bit here. So I'm going to have his arms reacting because he's coming out of the pose. So there should be a bit of drag on these elements. Three people have responded to my poll. I don't think everyone's listening. Okay, so I'm popping out, I'm coming out and up when I come out of that antic. It's a very tight timing for sure, but it's coming up and then he's coming down again here. So I'm going to definitely be affecting this timing a bit to make that look better, that arc look better. I think I'll do that now. So he's coming out of this run, And I want him to pop up like he is, but I want that to feel a bit more dramatic. I want him to get a bit higher here. Shit. He hasn't truly landed into his run yet because he's still coming out of the antic, right? So he's not truly in the cycle part of it yet. So I can play around with it quite a bit more. Okay, that's good. So with these tweens, now I'm doing the run part of the cycle. I don't know that the ease and ease out parameters is going to help me too much here. Into that pose and then into there. So the next big pose I want on this one is the contact pose. I'm just going to turn off motion tweening here and make this key work. So before this pose, he has to almost land into the pose, right? So the leg should be coming down and ready to hit. Okay. So it'll be something more like that. Boom. I wonder if I can get away with just having the one tween here. Maybe I can. Be a little tight. Oh wait, let's see. Yeah, the timing is very dramatic there, so I guess it would be appropriate to have just the one tween here. And again, those references that are on DC Connect, you guys can check those out. And then up. So this is a part where I'd want two drawings for sure. So I'm fine with the even timing here. Let's just make that work. I'll take these two keys over, move them over here. It's very important, guys, that you are considering your arcs and your timing on each of these poses. On something like this, I'm going to be doing such a dramatic repositioning of all these poses. I don't think the timing editor is going to help me too much. But the motion tweener, you see, it is helping me find the motion, which I appreciate. Thank you, motion tweener. But I still have to do a lot of the work, right? I got to get these arcs working. I want to make sure I have a nice, appropriate amount of drag on the arms here. They're coming down a bit fast for my taste. If you keep them hanging higher longer, you end up getting like a more impactful kind of run. It looks like a bigger run, essentially. Holy shit. How far down that leg got? Is that what happened here too? Oh my god. That's why you should always check this stuff before you start to tween it as if that's the final key. Let's take a look at it. So that's terrible. So I'm going to need to do quite a bit of repositioning to get that to work. So what happened was, like, because the feet are planted, this is a case where maybe I'm going to have to redraw some feet here to get like the proper angle on these legs, which is not something I want to do. Yeah, I actually don't want to do that because I don't want you guys to have to worry about redrawing either. So I'll just make it work. And knowing that it might not be perfect, but you see, like, once the leg starts going up, that fulcrum on the leg starts expanding higher, and it becomes harder to make these flat feet kind of work. You can see I'm twisting this thing quite a bit to get it to work. And this is, again, my least favorite part of Toon Boom, is how you have to work with the legs here to make them, because of hierarchy, the foot moves last, but the foot is really where I would prefer to move this from, and lock everything to that toe. But that's not how Toon Boom works, because Toon Boom's a real jerk. Toon Boom's a real jerk. So that's working okay, and then he goes way up. Oh, I gotta fix this one. Knowing what comes next. So what are you guys doing for the holidays? Are you guys do you guys have plans for the holidays? Let's see how many people are in my class right now. Only CSA aide could answer, and then I would at least have more people answering. People getting their attendance marked, but not listening. You're villains. So yeah, holiday plans. It's tough. I hope you guys have a good holidays. It's going to be such a weird holiday season. A real bummer. I hope we can all make it work. My family and I are going to do like a, what do we call it? I guess there's like these places in the city where they do like Christmas light tours. So you go drive around in your car and you go look at the Christmas lights. It's like $20 a car, $30 a car, or something like that. So we're going to do that next weekend. Okay, so you can see here when the leg is starting to go up, I got to start showing the leg popping and pumping, but it's becoming harder and harder because this leg is becoming quite disconnected from where it's supposed to be. It should be down there at this point. So I have to make that work. I need to see that transition happening, but you can see how little space I have for, and I might have to do that. I might have to shrink the leg a little to make it work, which is not ideal. I wonder if I could skew it back. Yeah, that might be what I have to do. Man, this foot is giving me issues. Can this one come off the ground here? Is this one actually supposed to start coming off the ground? It's supposed to start coming off the ground, so that could help. Ugh, look at that. It's just growing so much. It's not good. And then the arms will drag a bit here too. Again, I want that mid part of the run where like the arms are pumping through to appear quicker. I want him to hang, I want his arms to hang at the top parts, just like in a jump where you want the character to have hang time. I find the same with the arms. You want them to transition through this midpoint pretty fast. And that just makes the run seem more forceful. More Usain Bolt-ish. And don't we all wish we could run like Usain Bolt? Yeah. Okay, and you see, so far I'm on twos, right? Every other frame. Okay, so now I'm moving into my next jump here. My next step, and that'll move me into the antic before the jump. Let me take a sip of my tepid coffee here. Delicious coffee. Did you guys watch The Mandalorian on Friday? It's a pretty good one, guys. I guess I asked if you watched on Friday. If you watched on Saturday or Sunday, that's okay too. Okay, so he's gone up, and now he's going down into this step. Okay, so I need to have the stretch out position here. I haven't even had, oh, I have had the crossover. So I wonder here if I could have the same, I actually don't like how little space there is there. I wonder if I can get away with just one key here too. Get that stretch leg pose going good. Let's see how much I have to screw up the timing to make this work. Okay, so now I'm looking not at the timing, actually, the spacing. So if this is my next key and I move it roughly into this position here, you can see my spacing is becoming inconsistent between my run. It's like he's really like gaining speed into this pose, which is maybe, it's not that actual bad. That's a similar timing I had in the previous run. So it's just kind of a big jolt part of it. And I guess it kind of makes sense because he's coming down. Okay. Let's make this pose work, and then I'll decide on that later. I think I might have to have another tween there. I'm getting drunk on getting rid of tweens, but the run still has to work. And again, you know what? Like, you can actually go back and, you know, I have done this pose just on the reverse leg. So I could grab this one here and just move this here and then adjust the legs. Let's see if that works. Oh shit, but I actually did adjust this one more than I should have because it was he was coming out of the antic. So this might not work. Yeah, I can see he's a bit too upright. It's okay, that's easy to fix. Maybe this won't be so bad. It's a bit closer to what I want. Oh yeah, but these legs are reversed. This hasn't helped me at all. Bad idea, Brian. It's like a power walker. Really have the arms flying around here. Boom. Oh, I hear my dear wife and my son Peter upstairs. Peter's supposed to be at school by now. Oh, maybe she's returned. Let's be optimistic, and maybe she got him to school really quick, and now they've already returned. She's returned, not Peter. Peter would be at school. Fingers crossed. Okay, so that arc is working good. It's a lot. I've given it a lot of space there to get into that pose. Coming up. Boom. Yeah, maybe it'll work. Let's find out. I guess if it doesn't work, I can always go back and add a tween. And we're getting short on time, so let's not get too cute. Okay, so let's see how we're doing. So the run is pretty much done now. We'll see if it looks good. That'll be the big decider. Does it look good? Yeah, I think that's fine. Just 2 big steps. Looks jagged on your screen, I can see. On my screen, it's running much smoother. So he's anticing back, coming up, down, down. Looking at the line of my steps, you can see this is where his foot is. Here on this line, it's just below Yoda's foot line, which is probably not the best. But then you look at this one, and where it's coming down is way down here, which is like on this line. So I've made him quite wide. So I think I made a bit of a mistake in my posing. I should have had a bit of a ground plane ruler down just to make sure that that worked. So that's kind of impacting my up and down on my jump a bit, but still, it's fine. This is working fine enough, so let's just keep moving forward. Okay, so now I'm coming out of the jump, okay? So I guess what I wanted here was I wanted him to stay in this antic for a while. That would sound like me. That would be something I would do. So let's honor past Brian and give myself a 60 on ease it as a right time ratio, ease in, ease out parameters, apply, close. Yeah, and we'll have him slowly come out of this antic. Okay, and then let's just correct this. Okay, he's moving into his next big pose. which is up there, and you can see the arc is going that way. So let's fight this into that position a bit more. So I want to kind of get this swoop going with the character's head and body here. Good. I'll have this drag a bit. And you see that leg is moving forward. For whatever reason, the auto tweener didn't do a great job on that. I think actually this body will move up a bit more to allow a bit more space for this leg to do a bit of action here. I don't think I'm getting quite enough of the leg in here. Could this go up even more? It could go up even more, but then I would be losing a bit of the height. I think I do want to keep it compacted here. Yeah, let this go just a bit more over. Is it still popping up out of it? Is that going to be too slow? Okay, and then here, I'm really favoring this top part of the jump here. Okay, so I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go left time ratio and 50. Let's apply that. Close. And that gets me a bit more speed there, you can see. Yeah, so that's looking better. Now let's make that arc work. Oh, I didn't publish the last results, which were about The Mandalorian. Ashley and Danny are watching The Mandalorian with me. Good work, guys. Everyone else, you have a bit of Christmas viewing. I want to see a bit more of this launch, which was kind of hidden here in the tween. So I'm going to hint at it just a bit more with this leg dragging, and then it'll come up. I don't understand what's happening with his blink here. Oh, I see. I decided to have him blink here on the antic, but he should be opening his eyes there. Coming out of it here. Oh, I wanted to keep it. Okay, but they should be wide open at this point then. Again, using the bracket buttons. Actually, what eyes? Yeah. So wide open eyes. Using the bracket buttons, which are to just beside the letter P, to move through my it's a real bummer you know, COVID is obviously ruining everything, but hopefully by the time, what do you call it? Your spring comes around, you guys can have a end of year pub night or something. Hopefully we're all vaccinated by then and we can all party on, Wayne. Not that vaccinations will make everything perfect and we'll be able to party on, Wayne, like we used to, but maybe it'll make just enough of a difference that we can have a slightly more normal end of term maybe with some gatherings and things of the sort. That's my big hope. We can have a much more normal summer. The vaccinations are obviously not going to solve everything, but they're going to help a lot. And I'm looking forward to the time when old people don't have to fear for their lives to go to the grocery stores. Okay, right time ratio. And we're going to ease out of this again. Michael Jordan airtime here. So let's do that. Boop, boop. Okay. Now let's correct this arc. Again, we want to hang up here. We want to enjoy the sun, enjoy the sky. Whee! What are you doing, Brian? Okay, I'm looking for that arc in the head. I'm ignoring the middle one. The middle one isn't a true indicator of where I'm going because I'm not going to have that motion tweening on. All right. Heather's mom is hogging Disney Plus. You tell that mom of yours to share, Heather. Sharing is caring. Teamwork makes the dream work. Yeah, I think that arc is working pretty well. It's a scrape to go to the grocery stores, more specifically Loblaws. Yes. Yeah. Ashley, I can't remember if you are in Durham or if you are, I think you're in Durham, but hopefully the numbers stay low there. My parents live in Durham and my in-laws live in Durham too, so I'm hoping the numbers stay down so I don't worry as much about them in Oshawa as I would if they're in Toronto with me, but still the numbers in Durham, I think it was 100 cases yesterday, so it's not like they're low. You guys know about I don't want to talk about COVID all day. So let's take a look at where we're at here. This is going pretty well, guys. Yeah, so that jump looks good. So now I'm just going to be doing the resolution of it, right? So, you know, you don't need a ton of hang time. I could definitely have added some tweens there and manipulated the timing to make them hang up there longer. But I find, you know, if you have a jump and you just want to have that, you know, in this case, I have the start pose, the landing pose, the takeoff pose, and I had an antic cushioning there. And then I had the transition pose to the landing pose, which we did last week. I don't even know what you would call that. Let's call it transition pose. That's the pose that we're on right now. And then I just used the motion tweener and I added 2 tweens up here to add to the timing. So like really I didn't add much. And I think it's working pretty well. You know, often, you know, I would, if I wanted a slower jump, I would have probably done it something like that. Add an extra mid-tween there to kind of bridge the distance, you know, like between those two. And then really favored the high pose with these 2 poses. But again, I don't think it's necessary. It's just something I was looking at. Ford did really fudge it, Heather. I'm happy you noticed that. A lot of people seem to be unaware that Ford has done some bad job. Ashley, Pickering is right beside Scarborough, and absolutely people are coming into Durham region to go shopping. That is happening. That is 100% happening. Yeah, if you're going to the malls, I would definitely not go on the weekends if you can avoid it. Try to go on the weekdays. Avoid those COVID hot times. Hot times for COVID weekends. Whee! Okay. So I want him to come out of that really slow and then have a real slow out here. So it's going to be a slow out followed by a slow in. No, slow in? Yeah, a slow out followed by a slow in. So it'll be slow, fast, fast, slow. Okay, so it'll feel like a bit of a pendulum. Pendulum. Yeah, yeah. This would be the slow part, and then the fast part, and then the slow part. Yeah, that makes sense. It is like a pendulum. Stop doubting yourself, Brian. 55. Apply. Close. Okay, correcting those knee joints. I make sure those knees are working. Knees. Yeah, the bee's knees. Okay, so you can see he's going to be coming up pretty fast here, which I'm fine with. I want that arc to work when he comes up, so let's just take a look at that. Make sure that's working decently. And it's not. Let's bring that out here so he has a bit more of a nice arc. And again, looking at those joints, see the elbow is busted right there. You can see that little hump. Do the hump to hump. Do the hump to hump. Hump to hump. And when you correct the arc, you're going to have to correct the legs to make those continue to work. So obviously this leg is going to need to straighten out quite a bit to now match that. Ooh, fart. Match the angle that I had earlier. Okay. Oh, my Lord. I guess if I was to buy a Cintiq today, don't buy one that is now, God, when did I buy this? 97? Yeah, my Cintiq is like older than, it's the same age as my oldest niece, 13. Is that true? Can that be true? I graduated 2004. When did I buy this? 2007, 2008? My Cintiq's very old, so the drivers don't work, and it's driving me bonkers. It doesn't work in Toon Boom. It works in Flash MX, which is fortunately the program I use the most often, and it works often in so it works in Flash MX, and in Animate it seems to work often. But if I have other TV, if I'm not TV shows, but if I'm watching YouTube, all of a sudden my shortcuts will stop working, and I watch a lot of podcasts and YouTube shows when I'm working often, so it's tough, guys. It's tough. I think, if they did like one of those, I can't remember what they're called, but like you get like takes all the words that you've used and it makes like an image out of them, and the words that you use often are like big. I think if we did one of those for these classes, I think drivers would be one of the big words that would appear. Me and my battle with drivers. You can't complain when a piece of technology lasts that long. Cintiqs are a great thing. Like they're very, they're built to last. Like, is that Run DMC? I'm the kind of no, that's NWA. You can't complain except for all the complaining I do. I do. I said do. Maybe Santa can get me a new one. Oh my gosh, Heather. Please send him a letter and let him know. I don't know if he makes $2,000 Cintiqs all the time up in his workshop. Okay. I wouldn't blame Toronto people for Shoppers, because out here, Shoppers is one of the stores that's open. There's still quite a few stores open in Toronto. I find I don't actually have to go into Durham to break all the rules. But there are so many stores still open. But going to Walmart is a scary proposition. But like all the Lowe's, like I go to Lowe's a lot because I like to tinker around my house. So Lowe's are open, all the grocery stores are open, Dollaramas are open. We've had a lot of anger in the city from people who don't really understand what's going on with because the messaging is so messed up. Like like you guys have probably heard of that Adamson barbecue bonehead guy. He's a real bonehead, certainly. But it's hard to argue that the messaging is very confusing when mom and pop shops can't stay open and Walmart gets to stay open, having 500 people in their store every day, every minute of the day. So the messaging is screwed up. But screw that Adamson barbecue guy. He's a real POS. Okay, left time ratio. I'm really going to ease into this one here. Apply, close. It did not look like a 60. Oh, it's because it's not very far, of course. That's good, Heather. You fight the good fight. Think of all those grandmas and granddads out there. And hey, even people like you and me, well, I'm not as healthy as you guys, but like me, if I catch it, who knows what'll happen to me? You hear all these like, man, so many scary stories about these like things that happen to people and like they just stick around. These symptoms stick around. Aging your brain, it's crazy. I don't want that. My brain's already slow. You guys hear me mixing up my words all the time? I don't want to know how bad it can get. Okay, so I just added a little bit of an arc there to that piece just to make that work. And does this one need a bit? Yeah, this one will need a little bit too. I'll just have to tweak this one a little bit. I'm just going to pop him up a bit. I know I don't want to do it too much, just a little bit. If I get just a little bit of height here, it'll just ease him out of that spot a little bit better. and then make it feel more like an arc. You can already see that. So that's nice. Okay, so you see he's popping forward. And now I can do a bit of the secondary here. Boom. Maybe I'll have these arms snap a bit because they've come down so quick. Oh. Did I just delete that? What just happened to my hands? Oh, I didn't. Okay. Sorry, I'm getting just a little confused here. I'm done. So I'm just going to try to get a little snap, a little bit of drag on my arms here. And drag, I just mean I'm going to make the hands go back a little bit, and then they'll kind of snap into this position. And they'll just settle a little bit, just with a little bit of a, whoa. Did that work? Let's find out. It's maybe too subtle. Maybe been too subtle. You can see it on the rightmost arm. I think the leftmost arm didn't work too well. I can probably do better. Yeah, I can do better on that one. So I'm just trying to get a bit of secondary to soften this up part. Usually when you have this big kind of dramatic stand up and then a soft settle, if I can get a bit of secondary in his arms, so the body comes up and then the arms follow, it'll feel just a bit softer. And that's what I'm going for. I know I've talked to you guys a bunch about settles and how they can really soften your animation and make it look a bit better. And it's just a little bit of simple tweaking at the end. That's mainly what I'm going for here. Okay. I also have him coming down, and he's popping into these open eyes here. 1, 2, 3. I think we should start to see them open here. Maybe even earlier. Is down, and then here they should definitely be opening. Now I gotta spend some time going through these, make sure I got all this working out. All right, Let's move the eyes over to where they're going to be. He's staring at Yoda. As they pop up, they're going to transition into the eyes that I want them to be in. He's happy and proud of himself. Okay. All right, so let's get a mid pose here. Maybe I'll actually have his eyes closing here. When they're closing, you want them to close. You're seeing a little bit of the lid when they're closing. And then they close, you have a fully closed lid. And then when they're open, you have the mostly closed one to open. You know what? That's not good. Because that means that they're only shut for 2 frames. I want them shut for longer. So let's go back to how it was before. And here, I'll have them start to transition here. Boom. And then they're opening, wide open, shut, and open. Okay. Then we got bis secondary at the end there. The feet okay. The feet look like they're good. So I'm just double checking, making sure things are working. Okay. So I think that's working pretty well. Boop. So that's the final. Okay. So I'll post this on DC Connect, and you guys can watch it, and I'll post it on my YouTube channel as well, so you guys can go back and watch it and make sure that you guys are keying everything out. Okay, I've done a lot of assignments back where the posing is really good, the timing is spaced out correctly, but then the animation is left on ones, or the motion tweening is left on. And I can tell, like it's easy for me to see the floaty look of animation on ones. And especially when it's on ones and it hasn't been keyed, there's no arcs. And that stuff is, part of the job. You guys have to find those arcs and make those arcs work. Coming from a 3D space like you guys are, I know a lot of it, the computer does a lot of that for you guys, and it does an okay job at it. In 2D, we really have to do a lot of that work physically ourselves, and that's moving frames around. So please work at it and see what you can do with it, okay? Okay, so I'm going to turn that off. Boop. But I feel pretty good about that. And you'd want to do a nice cleaned up version of your baby Yoda or whatever you decide to use. Okay, so is there any questions left? Is there any questions about the final? It is due next Monday at midnight.